It's clear to anybody who sees this farm shop in this house that you're not just finding cute lyrics on Google and knocking out songs, that you're living with these ideas and these concepts. This piano?
This piano.
This very piano.
This very piano. Sure, this is the piano.
Any aspiring singer who wants to be anything comes here.
Well,
among the first
I'm one of the stops.
What are the first stops?
Okay. Mendelssohn is one of my alumni in New York School of Jewish Song, conducted by Yigal Saleh. Oh, Jew will be left behind. Avram Cropsey Avenue Friedman, who knew that, that he would change the world. He changed the world, there's no question about it. Matka lives down the block, a couple of houses down. I don't get to see him very often, but when I see him, I know, he's got such kind charisma. Yossi
Essentially, there's two singers, Avram Friedman and Mordechai David, who have been carrying us for 40 years plus.
Well, they kind of started
so
it.
Long,
so
and they started the industry with you,
right.
The modern Hassidic industry,
right.
Hassidic music industry, and you've been so much a part of them. But I don't know if people realize how many singers you've put on the map.
Well, I was a shliach. You mean to say I was a shliach?
I mean to say that you're shliach. If it isn't evident, how you see your role over here, the ones who allowed it to go in their direction. And like you said, all those people turning off on Cropsey Avenue and having to enter the code to get into Seagate.
Starting with DEDI.
Let's talk about DEDI's song first. So you gave him Ratza, which became such an epic piece. Did you know that was for him?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because
there's a certain color that he has in his voice, which
charisma in his voice.
Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu, L'Zakoi says he's throwing Lefichach hir baloem Toiro mitzvois Toiro umitzvois Lefichach hir baloem Toiro umitzvois Ahoy Toiro Shenema, oh Hashem, Chofetz leman tzidkoi, oh Yagdim Torah ve'yadir, Hashem Chofetz leman tzidkoi, Yagdil Torah ve'yadir. Chofetz leman tzidkoi, oh Yagdil Torah ve'yadir, Hashem Chofetz leman tzidkoi, Yagdil Torah ve'yadir. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Eves HaKoy says Yisrael Lefichach, Hir Balahem, Toiro Mitzvos, Lefichach, Hir Balahem, Toiro Mitzvos. You don't hear DEDI in there?
You had fun with DEDI. You enjoyed working with him, clearly.
What?
Clearly you enjoyed working with DEDI.
Oh, he was...
He had an energy that you liked.
He was a blast. He was fun. He was self-denigrating. He didn't take himself seriously.
Shwekey's first album is
your
song. Not only that, I sent you a video last week. He's Yaakov Shwekey. He's a superstar now at the top of, and he sang it last week in Eretz Yisrael at a concert. That's still a song that speaks to people and speaks to him.
So at the time Yochi was his and I remember the time that he had done a complete album and he was still missing one song, and he called me up on the telephone at the time, and I had not met Shwekey at the time yet. And I did not. The truth is, I didn't work with him enough. I still didn't work with him enough. I still have to, because he's one of the real superstars that really Kanai he broke through. When he started out, it was like, and he just broke through.
And he also keeps stark. He works hard.
He's very stark. Yeah, he's incredible stark. He's getting stronger all the time. Anyway, the Hasidim are starting to pick him up now. That's like a whole new Welt for him. And so Yochi calls me up and says, maybe you have an idea. And the way Yochi defined the song, he wanted it to be at a specific beats per minute. Because Yochi was the first guy in that world who was an orchestra leader. He knew what makes people dance, so he knew the rhythms. So at the time, again, we learned this Gemara, Shomati, Shehoyu Oimrim.
Shebo legan betalemudo yiveyodo ashlimi shebo legan betalemudo yiveyodo ashlimi shebo legan betalemudo yiveyodo ashlimi shebo legan betalemudo yiveyodo
Again, you got that.
I remember that was the chinuch. That was on Ever Minachai, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you tapped into his Middle East, to that heritage, to his Sephardic respect.
I mean, he's in that world, but this was my attempt.
It'll happen, Mr. And then somebody like Lipa, who brought a whole different type of entertainment to the film world, so different. So forget out of the box. There's no more box. And you were able to come up with a niggun to him.
Oh, with him,
to
I had to hang on
satisfy
to
his.
like when you're trying to catch a taxi and the taxi driver thinks you're in already, and you start
driving.
Moving. Oh, I've been.
But you were able to just with Gelt. You gave him again his first.
Yeah, he had this Gelt, Gelt, and by the way, that's the way it was. The name of the song was Gelt. I had no idea what the words were going to be, so it was all going to be. He wanted a song that stressed Gelt. Jeder Schweiger fahr sich teuer.
Let's give to Gelt.
Geld. remember the...
Jetzt ist eine Held, sein Wort jeder gefällt. Bis hat der Meier, hat der Deier, wenn es kommt zu Geld. An Ure mir gezählt, a Rache Puhn stellt. A jeder Schmeuger fahr sich teuger, wenn es kommt zu Geld. Hast du zu sorgen, der wird sie borgen. Skimmt in Batzulen, Käse auf Menolen. Die Tschecklich krachen, läuft sie gemachen. Nicht du kann nur, wenn sich da Kure verwannet. Wer so bis da nicht, wie groß die Juris, wer ich auf Zures, man von nur packen, in Arab knacken, kenn ich bezahlen, Käse mit Nullen, ein Schimmer geht noch Geld, in Gas verrät von Geld, ich geh mir still, was hat man lieber, weet ich warte Geld, koch mit Kind mit Geld, koch mit Kind mit Geld, man sucht da Lutz als eine Bus, wer gibt mir Hand von Geld.
Shloime Gertner started his career again with you. And again, these are songs that they're still singing at concerts.
Yes, Shloime was the first of a whole new bunch of, it's like you could say it was like the third group
Generation of
yeah. And he used to, well, what happened is that he had a manager, his name was Gershi Moskowitz, who is also another full of energy. He comes in and he's like a hurricane.
So
hurricane
talented
Gershi.
also, yeah.
Yeah, so he always, so he used to tell me, look, by the way, I want you to write a song for Shloime. Shloime was the youngest from the people that I had started working with at the time, and I remember that he told me he's taking Shloime to the airport. He's passing by the Belt Parkway, and can he get off at Cropsey Avenue? He wants to bring him that famous Cropsey Avenue. And he brought him over here.
We're going to make a petition that they should put exit to Yossi Green. For Yossi Green, pull off here.
There's a lot of other great stuff here.
Pull off here and become a star.
Anyway, so he brought him here, and I sat with him for 2-3 hours. I couldn't connect with the life of him. And he was this cute guy. He was dancing all that by himself, and he was on the steps. He was dancing down the steps, and he was, and I kept looking at Gershi like, come on, we got to end this evening, you know. And he kept saying, like, keep trying. So anyway, we finally sat him down, and I asked him if he could tell me a little bit about something about his personal life, and something I figured maybe from a personal life perspective. And he explained to me that he had a child that was at birth something happened, and the child was hurt as a result of it. And so I said, what's your relationship to the child? He says that he puts her to sleep every night. Her name is Malka, and that he sings her a little lullaby. I said, sing me the lullaby.
Oy Malka, oy Malka, oy Malka, Malka. And this is our only kesher with her, because her eyesight is very poor, and we just feel this is the kesher we have with her.
Oy Malka, oy Malka, oy Malka, Malka. And he says, I do it again. Ahoy Malka, ahoy Malka, ahoy Malka, Malka. And what do you do then? He says, I do it again. Until when do you do it? Then she falls asleep. I understood how that was. I was getting tired myself.
So Yossi asks me, Shloime, do you give me permission to take the song and continue the song? And I told him this would be our biggest matana. And for a half hour, he's sitting on the piano, strolling up and down, and it's unbelievable. He jumps up after a half an hour and he says, yes! And he says, I've got it. And he says, Shkoyach Hashem. And mamash, he starts, Oy kodesh ilochem. And the song, the Malka song, just became complete.
Oy oy Malka, oy 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 Malka, oy 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 Malka, Malka. Oy Malka, oy 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 Malka, oy oy Malka, Malka. Oy 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 Malka, oy 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 Malka, oy 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 Malka, Malka. And like that that Siyata D'Shmai that I told you about that happens every once in a while, that open one, from someplace, Shabbos Malka El asked him, do you happen to have a daughter, Bruchana? So he said, no. So Lohuni Yach Beruchana Toide Shiluchem
Shabbos Malku El Toich Boteichem Lohuni Yach Beruchu Ohoi Shabbos Hoy Malku Hoy Malku Malkele Oy 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 Malku Oy 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 Malku Oy 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 Malku Malku.
And that was my beginning connection with
him.
Gertner.
Maybe this is the most ambitious thing you did. You took a person who rose to the heights of classic chazanis in a way we haven't seen since Rosenblatt probably, and put him on your album and introduced him to a new genre. You pushed Helfgott into somewhere he'd never gone. You convinced him, you persuaded him, he took work?
Well, that was a very interesting story because he's this great chazan that he is. In Hebrew there's a word called otzma, which is power. When there are certain people that overwhelm you with hearts, and then there are people that just overwhelm you. They just overwhelm you. So I remember I heard him in Israel. I heard him say daven for the slichas and so on. I spoke to him at the time, and I asked him would he consider a song that I would write for him, and he said sure he would consider it, but his oilim was not for it. His oilim wanted to remain pure chazan. They were worried that the chazunim are getting, So Baruch Hashem, I was able to. I had this. V'chasois chol oirois v'hiois on ayomi
Itanu haflei Shua zoilomim Mitzoi lefanecha Koive vezalchumim Keil melech yoishei al kisei rachamim V'chasois chol oirois v'hiois on ayomim Itanu haflei Shua zoilomim Mitzoi lefanecha Koifer bezalchumim Keil melech yoishei al kisei rachamim.
Talk about game changers. Sometimes it's just about doing what you always did and doing it right. People who associated you with singers. You had started out in the world of choirs, School of
Yes,
Jewish
sure,
Song and Yigal. And then Yiddish Nachas came along at a different stage in your career
Yep.
when you weren't with the choirs, and somehow you were able to reach in and give them that song
Well, it was from
that made them.
Yeah.
You-
Well, it was more than that. It was becoming aware that we had all started. It's so funny. People. I have these new singers come and I give them a song usually, and they start, and some of them are pretty good, and I began to notice that some of the critique from the 40, 50-year-olds, they have the right to critique. They've been listening to music for 40 years already. Yeah, but it's not Avremel. Excuse me, what do you mean it's not Avremel? Avremel's singing for 40 years already. He worked, he came, when you're listening to Avremel sing a song, you're listening to somebody, or Matche, you're listening to somebody who worked out every nuance. Here you have a young kid and he's beginning to understand, he's finding his voice, he's finding his machshava, what do you want? So I realized that the way we got to Avremel and Matche and the great singers of our generation is we started when we were kids, and we listened to kids choirs, and then we had the groups.
And we evolved with them.
So we grew up with them slowly as they were moving. You know, I wrote a little more advanced. Avremel sang a little more advanced. Harmonies became better. The arrangers got more intimidated. They went back to school, so to speak, to, you know, how are we going to deal with this, you know? Suddenly, we got to a cliff, and then people became in their 40s, and they have to marry off kids, and suddenly they're not buying, and now you have little guys starting again. And they're starting from Avremel's level. How could you start from Mordechai Ben David's level, right? So I figured if we could start again, and that's it. And that's.
But wait, let's start with the words. What made you reach for these words?
His Cropsey, Moshe Rabbeinu. This next song.
Yeah.
Moshe Rabbeinu. So to me, a kid saying the word Moshe Rabbeinu is like, because the word Rabbeinu doesn't say there.
It's going back to the Cheder.
Yeah,
you put in Rabbeinu?
What?
You put in the word Rabbeinu?
I put in the word Rabbeinu.
It's in Simchas Torah, it's in the Machzor, right?
It's in Simchas Torah.
Right. So you're reaching into the world of Cheder Yingelach and their purity, and you added the Rabbeinu, which before there was the Satmar Rav, I guess there was Moshe Rabbeinu also, before Rabbeinu was co-opted, and you gave over that, and again, it just resonated across.
We did 4 albums, and...
But you invented, or I shouldn't say invented, but you put Yiddish Nachas on the map with that nick, and you gave them an identity as those kids, that purity, that authenticity.
The video of the Chofetz Chaim with this Skapsia.
Of course.
Yeah.
In Eretz Yisrael was the rally song for Gimel.
I know.
Yeah, they took it as their election jingle.
Right. They didn't speak to me
long way from Satmar.
They did not speak to me about it.
Shaka.
תמיד גם לא התרחשות, יהדות התורה בחירה היא
is forever. That this is the stamp that a person makes, and these things last. And you have so much forever, so much eternity, Baruch Hashem, in your songs that go on. If we're wrapping up this conversation, what would you look at as a niggin that created something? You tap into themes that will last. Mr. Mashiach's going to be here soon, and we'll be singing your songs. But which song do you just know year after year, week after, season after season, you know that this song is always going to give you a lift?
Well, obviously, the Achdus of Klal Yisrael is the ultimate idea, obviously, we all daven for it, we all work on it, we all understand, all of us understand clearly that if we ever managed it, if we would manage this real Achdus, that we're not, that every Yid would count and every Yid would look up to every other Yid and so on, everybody would know that we're all part of this Shir Kaima, then we know that this is the ultimate goal. So there's this one song, forever we will go far. It's not I am, but who we are. We need just to reveal it, need to try. Sums it up.
We have each other as our own. Nothing can divide us. Absolutely nothing can divide us. Positively nothing can divide us. For we are forever.